Sarah left her kids for a sugar daddy. You'll always be the ugly duckling, Mom sneered. She broke into my house with a thug, then she bit me in court. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, always feeling like the shadow to my older sister, Sarah. My name's Emily, and from the moment I could understand words, my mom, Linda, made it clear Sarah was her golden child. Sarah had this stunning cascade of curly blonde hair and bright blue eyes that seemed to charm everyone. Me, I had plain brown hair and darker eyes, nothing special in Mom's eyes. She'd gush over Sarah's looks, saying, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" It stung every time, like a knife twisting in my gut. Sarah soaked up the attention, and it turned her cruel. She'd mock my clothes, my hair, anything she could pick at, knowing Mom would never call her out. I remember asking her once for makeup tips, hoping to bridge the gap. She laughed in my face, called me hopeless, and walked away. That was our childhood, her on a pedestal, me scraping for scraps of approval. It bred resentment, deep and bitter, that festered into our adulthood. Mom's favoritism wasn't just about looks. Sarah could scream, lie, or steal, and Mom would shrug it off. "She's just spirited," she'd say. Meanwhile, I was the good one, but only because I stayed quiet, studied hard, and never caused trouble. It wasn't enough. I felt invisible, like I was born to be the lesser daughter. That hurt carved something into me, a drive to prove I was more than their afterthought. By high school, I buried myself in books, turning pain into focus. While Sarah partied, I aced every test, determined to escape the shadow. It wasn't about love anymore. It was about survival. I swore I'd build a life they couldn't touch, one where I didn't need their approval. That promise kept me going, even when the weight of their rejection felt like it would crush me. I threw myself into my studies, determined to carve out a life that didn't depend on Mom or Sarah's approval. In Seattle, I worked relentlessly, staying up late with textbooks, chasing perfect grades. It paid off. I earned a full-ride scholarship to the University of Washington, a dream I'd held since I was a kid. Graduating high school with a 4.0 felt like a quiet rebellion against Mom's constant dismissal. She'd told me before freshman year that she'd only pay for Sarah's college, her firstborn. I'd have to scrape by at community college. That night, I cried until my eyes burned, asking why she didn't love me. Her answer? Sarah deserves it more. It broke something in me, but it also lit a fire. At UW, I thrived. I graduated with honors, landed an internship at a tech firm in downtown Seattle, and by 23, I was pulling in $120,000 a year as a project manager. My life felt like mine, finally stable, independent, something they couldn't touch. But every holiday, I'd come home to Mom's cold stares and Sarah's snide remarks. I'd share my promotions, my corner office, and Mom wouldn't even look up from her phone. Once, at a Christmas dinner in our old family home, my uncle praised my latest raise. I beamed, hoping for a flicker of pride from Mom. Instead, she muttered, "It's probably not even true," and changed the subject to Sarah's new haircut. My heart sank, but I swallowed the hurt, used to it by then. Sarah's life was a mess in comparison. She partied through high school, barely graduated, and went to a mediocre college Mom paid for. She flunked out, got pregnant by some guy she barely knew, and had 2 kids, Jack and Liam, by 22. She lived in a cramped apartment, leaning on Mom's money, while I built my career. I thought my success would bridge the gap, maybe earn me a shred of respect. It didn't. Mom resented me more, like my achievements were an insult to Sarah's failures. Once, I posted about buying my first house in Capitol Hill, a cute 2-bedroom I'd saved for. My cousins liked the post, but Mom ignored it. Sarah commented, "Nice fake purse in the pic." I deleted it, my chest tight with anger. Dad wasn't much better. He'd nod at my news, say, "Good job," but never stood up to Mom's venom. The one time he said he was proud, at a family barbecue, it felt like a lifeline. But it wasn't enough to erase years of being sidelined. I started therapy, working on my self-esteem, trying to unlearn the idea that I was less than Sarah. It was hard, shaking off the weight of their rejection, but I was done begging for love. My job, my house, my life, they were proof I didn't need them. Still, every family gathering reminded me how little I mattered to them, and it hurt more than I'd admit. It was a quiet Saturday morning in my Capitol Hill home, the kind where I'd usually sip coffee and catch up on work emails. The doorbell rang, sharp and unexpected. I opened the door to find my nephews, Jack, 10, and Liam, 7, standing on my porch with overnight bags, looking confused. My heart sank. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice shaky. Jack, clutching his little dog plushie, said, "Mom dropped us off. She said you're watching us for 8 weeks while she's on vacation." I froze. Sarah and I hadn't spoken since the 4th of July barbecue, where she'd sneered at my outfit, telling me to skip seconds because my muffin top was an eyesore. Now she thought I'd be her free babysitter. No call, no heads up, just her kids on my doorstep. I let Jack and Liam inside, gave them snacks, and tried to stay calm while my mind raced. My house wasn't set up for kids. I had work deadlines and a trip to San Francisco planned in a month to meet my boyfriend David's family. I called Sarah, my hands trembling as the phone rang. She ignored my first 10 calls. I kept trying, pacing my living room, until she finally picked up. "What the hell, Sarah?" I snapped. "I'm not watching your kids for 2 months." Her voice was cold, venomous. "You will, Emily, or I'll call your company and tell them you're off your bipolar meds." My stomach dropped. I didn't have bipolar disorder, but the threat hit hard. My career was everything, $120,000 a year, a corner office, respect I'd fought for. I couldn't risk her lies jeopardizing that. I hung up, my head spinning. Jack and Liam were playing quietly in the guest room, unaware of the chaos their mom had unleashed. I called Mom, hoping she'd talk sense into Sarah. Big mistake. Mom answered from her house in Tacoma, her voice dripping with disdain. "Emily, they're old enough to be dropped off. Sarah needs this break. You owe her." I laughed bitterly. Owe her? For what? Bullying me my whole life? My voice cracked as I yelled, "Tell me one time time Sarah's been there for me. Mom went silent, then mumbled some excuse about family duty. I demanded she come to Seattle, thinking maybe she could watch the kids so I could still make my trip. She agreed, but I knew she'd side with Sarah, like always. The next day, Mom showed up, her eyes cold and judgmental. We sat in my living room, Jack and Liam in the other room watching cartoons. I tried explaining how insane this was, Sarah dumping her kids without asking, threatening my job. Mom cut me off. You're being selfish, Emily. Sarah's had it rough. You've got this fancy house. Your big job help her for once. My blood boiled. Rough? She's a deadbeat who abandoned her kids, I shouted. I demanded to know where Sarah was. Mom dodged, saying it was just a well-deserved trip. I pressed harder, telling her it was suspicious, that leaving 2 young kids for 8 weeks made no sense. Mom's face tightened, and after a long pause, she admitted Sarah wasn't on vacation. She was with a wealthy friend who'd flown her out of the country, a sugar daddy. I laughed, shocked, but Mom was dead serious. I lost it. You raised a loser who ditched her kids for some creep's money, I yelled. Mom's eyes narrowed. You'll never be half the woman Sarah is, she spat. You're just the ugly duckling, always will be. Her words hit like a slap, reopening every childhood wound. I stood there, shaking, as Jack's little voice called from the hallway, asking if everything was okay. Guilt washed over me. They didn't need to hear this. I told Mom to leave, my voice low but firm. She smirked, refusing to budge, and I felt the walls closing in. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about those boys, caught in the middle of Sarah's selfishness and Mom's enabling. Mom sat across from me in my Capitol Hill living room, her arms crossed, eyes glaring like I was the problem. Jack and Liam were in the guest room playing video games, their laughter a faint echo against the tension. I tried reasoning with her again, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside. Mom, Sarah dumped her kids here without asking. She's off with some sugar daddy and you're defending her? This is insane. Mom's lips curled into a sneer. You're so selfish, Emily. Sarah's always been the better daughter. You're just jealous. Always have been. Her words hit like a punch, dragging me back to every childhood insult, every time she called me less than Sarah. I stood up, pacing, trying to keep my cool. Jealous? She's a mess, Mom. She abandoned Jack and Liam. My voice rose and I caught myself, glancing toward the guest room, hoping the boys didn't hear. Mom leaned forward, her voice low and venomous. You'll never be her. You're the ugly duckling, Emily. Always will be. My breath caught, my chest tightening like a vice. Those words, ones she'd thrown at me since I was a kid, burned deeper now, in my own home. I pointed to the door. Get out, I said, my voice shaking but firm. Now, Mom didn't move. Instead, she stood, stepping closer, her face twisted with rage. You don't tell me what to do in my daughter's house, she snapped. Before I could react, she shoved me hard. I stumbled backward, crashing into my coffee table. The vase David gave me, delicate, hand-painted, a treasure from his last visit, tipped over and shattered on the hardwood floor. Shards scattered like my composure, and I stared at the wreckage, my heart breaking with it. That vase wasn't just a gift. It was a symbol of someone who actually cared about me. I screamed, tears streaming down my face. Get out, Mom. I'm calling the police. My voice cracked, raw with years of pent-up pain. She laughed, cold and cruel, refusing to budge. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and dialed 911. My mother just assaulted me in my home, I told the operator, my voice barely steady. Mom's eyes widened, but she didn't back down, muttering about how ungrateful I was. Jack's small voice cut through from the hallway. Aunt Emily, are you okay? My heart sank. Those boys didn't need to see this. I forced a smile, told them to stay in the room, and turned back to Mom, my resolve hardening. The police arrived quickly, 2 officers stepping into my home as Mom sat smugly on my couch. I explained everything: Sarah's abandonment, Mom's shove, the broken vase. They took her statement, but her excuses sounded hollow even to them. They escorted her out, warning her not to return. As the door closed, I sank to the floor, staring at the broken vase, feeling just as shattered. Guilt gnawed at me for the boys hearing my screams, for dragging them into this mess. But I couldn't let Sarah or Mom ruin their lives or mine anymore. I had to protect Jack and Liam, even if it meant fighting my own family. That night, I held Liam's plush dog, tears falling as I promised myself I'd fix this, no matter what it took. I was still reeling from Mom's attack, picking up the shards of David's vase, when my doorbell rang again a few days later. My heart raced, expecting another fight, but nothing prepared me for what I saw. Sarah stood on my Capitol Hill porch, her eyes wild, hair a mess, like she hadn't slept in days. Next to her was a hulking man I'd never seen, his face hard, tattoos creeping up his neck. Jack and Liam cowered behind her, clutching their bags, looking terrified. My stomach churned. Sarah, what the hell are you doing here? I demanded, keeping my voice low so the boys wouldn't hear the panic. She smirked, her voice dripping with venom. I'm taking my kids back, Emily. You don't get to play hero. Before I could respond, she pushed past me, the man shoving me aside like I was nothing. My shoulder slammed into the doorframe, pain shooting through me. Get out of my house, I screamed, scrambling to block them. Sarah ignored me, storming toward the guest room where Jack and Liam had been staying. The man grabbed my arm, his grip bruising, and tossed me onto the couch. Stay down, he growled, his voice like gravel. I froze, my heart pounding, as Sarah dragged the boys out, their eyes wide with fear. Liam clutched his plush dog, tears streaming down his face. Aunt Emily, he cried, reaching for me. Jack tried to pull him back, but Sarah yanked them both toward the door. You're not their mom, I shouted, lunging to my feet. Sarah spun around, her face twisted, and spat in my face, the wet glob hitting my cheek. I wiped it off, shaking with rage as they stormed out to a black Suburban parked crookedly on my street. I memorized the license plate Washington, KXE 4729, my work-honed memory memory kicking in despite the chaos. I called 911, my voice trembling but clear. My sister broke into my house with some guy and took her kids, I told the dispatcher, giving every detail. Sarah's red hoodie, the man's leather jacket, the car. They assaulted me. Please, hurry. The operator promised a quick response and I sank to the floor, my head spinning. I couldn't stop seeing Liam's terrified face, Jack's helpless stare. Those boys didn't deserve this. I felt powerless, but I wasn't giving up. I called CPS next, updating them on Sarah's reckless behavior, praying they'd intervene before she hurt the boys. Hours later, the police called back. They'd found the Suburban on I-5, pulled it over with 3 patrol cars. The man had charged at them, fists swinging, even with guns drawn. He'd punched 2 officers, gave one a black eye, before they shot him in the thigh. Sarah, wild and unhinged, had fought too, clawing at an officer trying to cuff her. I couldn't believe it, my sister, battling cops on a highway, her kids in the backseat. The officer said they were both arrested, and Jack and Liam were safe with CPS. Relief flooded me, but worry gnawed at my gut. Those boys had seen too much, and I hadn't protected them. I sat on my couch staring at the spot where Sarah had spat at me, my mind racing. She'd always been cruel, but this was a new low endangering her kids, breaking into my home, bringing some thug to do her dirty work. I thought about her vacation, her sugar daddy, and how she'd chosen money over her own children. My anger burned hotter, but so did my resolve. Jack and Liam needed me, and I'd fight for them, no matter what. My trip to San Francisco was a week away, and I had to go. David's family was expecting me, and canceling would cost me thousands, but my nephew's faces haunted me, and I knew I couldn't rest until they were safe, away from Sarah's chaos. The police call left me shaken, but I had to keep moving. Jack and Liam were safe with CPS, but the thought of them in a stranger's care twisted my stomach. I sat in my Capitol Hill living room, staring at the spot where Sarah had shoved me, her spit still a bitter memory on my cheek. My flight to San Francisco was in a week, and I couldn't cancel. Meeting David's family was too important, and I'd lose thousands in bookings. But my nephew's faces, scared and lost, haunted me. I felt torn, like I was abandoning them, even though I had no choice. I called CPS daily, begging for updates. They confirmed Jack and Liam were in a temporary foster home, but they wouldn't let me speak to them. "You're not their legal guardian," the agent said, her voice flat. I wanted to scream. I was the only stable family they had. Sarah was in jail, facing charges for assaulting an officer, and Mom was no better, enabling her all these years. I decided to act. I filed charges against Sarah and Mom for breaking into my Seattle home, detailing the attack, the man's violence, the stolen kids. My lawyer, sharp and expensive, assured me it was a strong case. Work was understanding, giving me time to handle the chaos, but Sarah's threat to ruin my career still lingered. I'd built everything, my $120,000 job, my house, despite her and Mom's cruelty. I wasn't letting them take it. At night, I clutched Liam's plush dog, its worn fur a reminder of the boys I'd failed to protect that day. Guilt ate at me, but so did anger. Sarah had chosen some sleazy sugar daddy over her kids, and Mom had backed her up, calling me worthless. They didn't get to win. The day of my San Francisco trip came. I sat at SeaTac Airport, 2 coffees deep, staring at photos of Jack and Liam from a mall photo booth we'd taken during their brief stay. Their goofy smiles broke my heart. I boarded the plane, determined to focus on David and his family, but my mind kept drifting to the boys. What were they eating? Were they scared? CPS wouldn't tell me anything, and it felt like a betrayal of the promise I'd made to keep them safe. In San Francisco, David met me at the airport, his hug warm and steady. His parents were kind, welcoming me into their cozy Bay Area home. We laughed over dinner, toured Golden Gate Park, and for a moment I felt lighter. But every night I'd check my phone, hoping for CPS updates. None came. Back in Seattle, I went straight to the police station, pushing for my charges against Sarah and Mom. The officer said CPS was still investigating Sarah's fitness as a parent, but progress was slow. Frustration burned in me. She'd attacked cops, abandoned her kids, and they still hadn't decided. I knew then I had to fight harder, not just for justice, but for Jack and Liam. They deserved a home, not her chaos. Back in Seattle, the legal battle consumed me. I stood in the King County courthouse, my heart pounding as I faced Sarah across the room. It was the first time I'd seen her since she spat in my face and stormed out with Jack and Liam. She looked haggard, her once perfect curls limp, her eyes glaring with venom. My lawyer had prepped me for the breaking and entering charges against her and Mom, but the air in the courtroom felt electric, like something bigger was about to explode. I gripped the edge of my seat, trying to stay calm. The judge laid out the charges: Sarah's illegal entry, the assault by her thug, and her reckless endangerment of the boys. My lawyer presented my statement, detailing the chaos in my Capitol Hill home, the terror in Jack and Liam's eyes. I glanced at Sarah, expecting some remorse, but she just smirked, whispering to her public defender. Then the judge mentioned my separate custody case for Jack and Liam. Sarah's head snapped up, her face twisting in shock. Apparently, her lawyer hadn't told her. She stood, screaming my name, her voice echoing off the courtroom walls. Before anyone could react, she lunged at me, claws out, aiming for my face. I ducked, but she grabbed my hair, yanking hard. Pain seared through my scalp as she scratched my cheek, drawing blood. "You'll never take my kids!" she shrieked, biting down on my forearm. The pain was blinding, like fire under my skin. The bailiff tackled her, pulling her off as she kicked and screamed like a wild animal. The judge slammed his gavel, ordering her restrained. My arm throbbed, blood seeping through my sleeve, but I felt a strange calm. Sarah had just destroyed herself in front of everyone. The bite got infected later, leaving a scar, but in that moment I knew she'd sealed her fate. Mom's testimony was the final nail. To avoid prison, she took the stand, sobbing her fake tears, blaming Sarah for everything. "I didn't know she'd bring that man man," she whined, painting herself as a helpless bystander. I stared at her, the woman who'd called me an ugly duckling my whole life, now throwing her golden child under the bus. It was sickening, but satisfying. For once, Sarah faced consequences. The judge ruled against her, piling on charges: assault, breaking and entering, child endangerment. Combined with her highway fight with the cops, she was sentenced to life, no chance of parole. Mom walked free, but I was done with her. That day, watching her cry on the stand was the last time I'd ever see her. The custody battle dragged on, complicated by the boy's deadbeat dad and his family fighting for them. I didn't care. I hired the best lawyer in Seattle, pouring my savings into the case. Jack and Liam deserved a real home, not Sarah's chaos or their dad's neglect. After nearly 2 years, I won full custody. The day I brought them home, my heart felt whole. We walked into my Capitol Hill house, their bedrooms ready with posters and toys I'd picked out. Jack hugged me tight, his voice soft. "I knew you'd save us, Aunt Emily." Liam clutched his plush dog, smiling for the first time in months. I held them close, tears in my eyes, knowing I'd fought for something bigger than myself. Sarah and Mom were gone from my life, and I'd never let their poison touch us again. Jack and Liam's laughter filled my Capitol Hill home, a sound I'd fought 2 years to hear again. I'd won custody, and we were finally a family, free from Sarah's chaos and Mom's venom. Their bedrooms, decked out with superhero posters and cozy blankets, felt like a promise kept. Liam clutched his plush dog, grinning as he showed me his new Switch games. Jack, quieter but stronger, hugged me daily, whispering, "Thanks, Aunt Emily." My heart swelled, healing old wounds. Seattle's rainy days didn't feel so gray anymore. I cut Mom and Sarah out of my life completely. No calls, no visits, nothing. Mom tried reaching out once, leaving a voicemail about family, but I deleted it. Sarah was locked away, her life sentence a distant echo. I didn't care. My focus was Jack and Liam, giving them the love and stability I never had. David, my rock, flew in from San Francisco often, helping us build new memories: pizza nights, hikes in Discovery Park, silly photo booth sessions at the mall. He proposed last month, a quiet moment under the Space Needle, and I said yes, knowing we'd be a family of 5 someday. My job, still paying $120,000 a year, gave us security, but the boys gave me purpose. I wasn't the ugly duckling anymore. I was their home, their protector. Therapy helped me let go of the past, and I found peace in our little routines: bedtime stories, school projects, Liam's shy smiles. We were healing together, building a life where love, not resentment, defined us. I'd never let anyone hurt them again, and for the first time, I felt like I was enough.